Before we begin, let me explain some important Japanese cultural context. In Japan, Shinto shrines are sacred places where kami spirits or deities are worshipped. These shrines often house mysterious objects that serve as vessels for spiritual power. The concept of kigara, spiritual impurity from sins or misdeeds, is central to Shinto belief. People visit shrines to purify themselves of this spiritual contamination. Our story takes place at a remote mountain shrine that houses a very unusual sacred object. Now, let's begin our story. It was spring of my second year in college. That day, my friends Kevin and Sam and I had set out on one of our occult tours since morning. Kevin, a devoted occultist, was the one who suggested the trip. Sam provided the transportation with his car. It was our usual trio in our usual situation. The car was now driving down a country road sandwiched between mountains and rice fields on both sides. Sam was behind the wheel. I sat in the passenger seat, Kevin in the back. Our destination was a shrine located in a village about 2 hours' drive from our hometown. According to Kevin, this shrine supposedly enshrined something strange and fascinating as its deity. So, is this something they'll actually show us when we get there? I asked. Well, I think it should be fine. Probably, came Kevin's queasy voice from the back seat. Kevin had a weak stomach when it came to car rides. I already contacted the head priest, told him we're 3 serious students visiting for folkloristic research purposes. I feel sick. We had been on many occult tours before, and we always made appointments in advance when necessary. Kevin was the one who handled these arrangements. Usually, we got turned down politely, but sometimes, like today, we received permission. Of course, even when permission was denied, we'd say we tried our best and end up going anyway. So what exactly is enshrined at this shrine? I asked. Looking back, I saw Kevin's body collapse sideways. From that position, Kevin said, a bag. I asked again, was this shrine really enshrining a bag? No. Something holding a bag. Oh God, I'm gonna throw up. Sam silently pulled the car over to the roadside. Kevin stumbled out unsteadily and went into the woods, where he had an emotional reunion with whatever he'd eaten for breakfast. After driving for a while longer, we arrived at the village. It was a small mountain village, and we found the shrine immediately. There was a stone torii gate at the entrance. We parked carefully by the roadside and got out. Kevin seemed to have recovered. Whatever you do, don't throw up on the shrine grounds, Sam said to Kevin. These are sacred places after all. I won't throw up. There's nothing left in my stomach anyway. Since when do you believe in that stuff? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Besides, we're supposed to be folklore students now. Beyond the torii gate, gentle stone steps that you could probably ride a bicycle up stretched between the trees. At the top, we could see what looked like the main worship hall. We passed through the torii and entered the shrine path. Above us, the branches and leaves of surrounding trees filtered the sunlight. Dappled light danced and changed shape with every breeze. The air felt different somehow, sacred. On the path, we passed an elderly woman with a bent back. When she noticed us, she smiled with her wrinkled face and bowed slightly. I nodded back lightly, and Kevin added, "Good afternoon." She was probably a worshipper. The shrine grounds weren't very large. There was the main worship hall, and behind it the inner sanctuary. To the right of the path was a purification basin where people cleansed their hands and mouths with water. Next to it stood a smaller shrine building, about the height of a person. Near this smaller shrine, a man was sweeping with a broom. He appeared to be in his late 40s, wearing a blue jacket over casual track pants. "Ah, you must be the ones who called," he said with a gentle smile when he spotted us. "This must be the head priest." He was younger than I'd imagined. After introductions, the priest, who turned out to be a farmer growing citrus fruits when not tending the shrine, pointed to the small shrine building with his broom handle. "There it is, the bag-san I mentioned on the phone. First, take a good look and see what you think." Apparently, our target was inside this shrine building. Following the priest's guidance, We peered inside the small shrine. Behind the double doors, there sat a strange object. Bag-san. True to its name, it was indeed a bag, made of hemp, perhaps. A light brown bag about the size of a human head, tied at the top with red string. That alone would have been merely mysterious, but what made it truly bizarre was that needles were stuck into every single surface except the bottom. Pins, sewing needles, long needles, short needles, all kinds of needles. I called it Bag-san earlier, but it doesn't really have a proper name. My father used to call it Hedgehog-sama. The priest rested his hand on the shrine roof as he spoke. Is it true that sticking needles into this thing erases past sins and mistakes? Kevin asked. I looked at the needle-covered bag, so it wasn't just an ordinary bag after all, but it didn't look like something with such grand legends attached to it. Yes, that's the legend. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. The elderly villagers still believe and come to stick needles in it. Would you like to try? If you have any guilty consciences. We looked at each other. I shook my head. Kevin gave a silly grin, and Sam shrugged slightly. All three of us apparently believed we had nothing to feel guilty about. What irreverent bunch we were. Ha ha ha, I see. Sounds like you're living righteous lives. Good for you. The priest laughed amusedly. Well, I'll go sweep over there for a bit. Call me if you have any questions. After the priest went toward the main hall, the three of us remained, studying the Bag-san intently. A bag that erases mistakes when you stick needles in it. Never heard of that before, Sam murmured. The name Bag-san bothers me. If you put O in front of it, it becomes mother, I said. He said there's no official name. That Bag-san probably just spread among worshippers. So basically, we just came here to worship this bag today. Sam looked at Kevin as he said this. I was thinking the same thing. Sure, this bag covered in needles was bizarre, but it didn't seem like something that would ping Kevin's occult radar. To put it bluntly, this bag wasn't much different from a Buddha statue you'd find in any temple. Kevin laughed. Of course not. And we didn't come to worship this bag. Kevin grabbed Sam's and my shirt fronts and pulled us toward him. We came to worship what's inside this bag, he whispered. Inside the bag, I had vaguely assumed it was just stuffed with cotton or something, but from Kevin's tone it apparently wasn't cotton. There are rumors about this bag, that it moves when you stick needles in it or makes crying sounds. People think there might be an animal inside. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Whether it's really an animal, or something else. At that moment some kind of cry echoed around us. I reflexively looked at the bag in the shrine, but the sound came from overhead. A blackish bird, probably a crow, flew away into the sky. How exactly are we supposed to see it? I asked Kevin after taking a breath. From our earlier conversation, the priest seemed like a good-natured man, but would he really show us his shrine's sacred object so easily? Besides, the bag had countless needles stuck in it. To open the bag and see inside, we'd have to remove them one by one. I don't absolutely have to see it with my own eyes. The quickest way would be to ask the priest directly. That's why I called ahead. Though I don't know if he'll answer. Just asking is enough. If that satisfies me, yeah. So we went to ask the priest. He was cleaning around the main hall. I've been slacking on cleaning lately, so it's gotten pretty bad. When we approached, the priest, who had been crouched down cleaning under the main hall, laughed and said this while getting up and patting his back. Do you have questions about something? Yes. What exactly is inside that Bag-san? Without any beating around the bush, Kevin asked directly. After a pause, the priest looked at Kevin. What will you do with that information? Write it in a university report? That's the plan. That's a lie, I thought. The priest smiled gently. You forgot to bring something to take notes with. Kevin looked a bit flustered at these words. Seeing this, the priest laughed again. It's fine. It's fine. I understand. Young people like you have come here before out of curiosity, but you're more polite than most. You properly contacted us in advance. Apparently our true purpose had been transparent from the start. Could you show us what's inside? Sorry, but I can't do that. Within his gentle tone, I could sense an unshakable resolve. No amount of pleading would change his mind. I can't tell you about the contents, although if one of you wanted to become my successor here, then I could tell you. Now that's a good idea, don't you think? We couldn't tell if he was serious or teasing us. Faced with the laughing priest, we could only manage awkward smiles. In the end, we couldn't extract any information about Bagsan from the priest. We thanked him and decided to leave the shrine. Back at the car, Kevin said with some indignation, "Damn that old man. A secret that only priests can know makes me even more curious." Maybe he was watching us, making sure we didn't do anything weird to the sacred object, Sam said, settling into the driver's seat and reclining it slightly. "Really?" I asked. Remember what he said earlier, that this had happened before, but unlike us, those guys hadn't called ahead. Yet he still knew they were young people. That means they must have caused some trouble. Maybe the priest was there at the time. That old man didn't seem like he's here very often. Well, maybe he was there. What kind of trouble did they cause? How should I know? Don't ask me. Then Kevin muttered quietly, "A curse." Sam and I turned toward the back seat. What if those guys got cursed because they did something to the bag, and when things got out of hand, they went crying to the priest? "No way," Sam immediately denied. "Really? I think I'm on the right track here." Deflated by Sam's rejection, Kevin's brilliant deduction withered away. "So what do we do now?" I asked Kevin. Kevin gave a light groan, then kicked the driver's seat from behind. "Hey Sam, start the car." Then he leaned back against his seat and closed his eyes. "We tried our best," he said. "We had called ahead to visit, asked what was in the bag, and requested to see it. If they said no, well, there was nothing we could do about that. We'd just have to see it without permission." That night, we parked the car some distance from the shrine, and Kevin and I walked through those stone torii gates again, flashlights in hand. Sam didn't come. He just said, "I'm sleepy and should be napping in the car right now." The shrine at night had a completely different atmosphere than during the day. The rustling of trees that had seemed refreshing during our morning visit now sounded like the breathing of some unknown entity. "There it is," Kevin said. The small shrine next to the purification basin. The doors that had been open in the morning were now closed. Getting closer, we could see they were locked. I wondered what we'd do, but Kevin approached the shrine and asked me to shine the light on the doors. He pulled something from his pocket, what appeared to be a thin screwdriver and some wire. Note: the following section describes lock-picking techniques, so specific details cannot be included here. Eventually the door came loose with a rattle. Kevin gently placed the door on the ground and sighed with relief. He reached into the shrine and pulled out Bagsan, then carefully placed it on the door lying on the ground. "This is definitely criminal," I muttered. "But it's the perfect crime. No one will notice even if they come tomorrow." Of course, we planned to put everything back exactly as we found it after examining the bag's contents. Leave no trace. Kevin always said that was the proper etiquette for those who dabble in the occult. I shone my flashlight on the bag from various angles, still covered in needles. That's when I noticed that even the knot of the red string tying the bag's mouth had a needle stuck through it. Was the bag heavy? Not really. Maybe a kilogram or so. Kevin and I looked at each other. "Alright, let's start pulling them out," Kevin muttered and gripped the first needle. It slid out easily. The part that had been stuck inside was a different color from the part that had been outside. The tip still gleamed with silver luster. One by one the needles came out. We put the removed needles into an empty tissue box we'd brought from the car. Kevin seemed to plan on removing all the needles before untying the string at the mouth. Maybe he hoped something would happen while pulling out the needles. While illuminating the bag with my light, I counted the needles. When about half were removed, there were 41. Then I suddenly remembered that the number of needles represented the number of sins people had committed. We might be doing something terrible right now, but the needles kept being removed. About 20 needles remained. That's when it happened. We heard a cry. I spun around, startled. A bird? No, it was closer to a cat's cry. It also sounded like a baby crying. Baby. The word I just thought made my spine freeze. Kevin's hand stopped. He could hear it too. It was still crying. But we couldn't tell where the sound was coming from. It seemed to come from the bushes on the left, or from under the worship hall on the right, or from the sky or from underground. And it also seemed to come from inside the bag right beside us. The bag moved slightly. Whoa, I reflexively jumped backward. Kevin didn't move. Duh. The sound of rustling branches, something crying. Error sounds rang in my head. Beep beep beep. From experience, when this sound started, something bad was about to happen. I opened my eyes wide, but Kevin was still trying to pull needles from the bag. Kevin, let's stop, I called out. But Kevin not only wouldn't stop pulling needles, he seemed unable to hear my voice. When I stood up, my legs were shaking. I could feel my blood circulation speeding up throughout my body. The heartbeat transmitted through bone vibrations sounded like a big drum. What should I do? What could I do? Should I knock Kevin out? Should I go get Sam? I didn't know. I couldn't move. Knock that fool down. A voice rang out. In that instant my body moved, and I was pushing Kevin with both hands. The flashlight beam swept across my body as I turned around. Standing there was the priest, wearing the same clothes as this morning. Good grief, I was worried and came to check, just as I thought. Looking at the removed shrine door and the bag sitting on it, the priest sighed deeply. You idiots. We're so sorry. Kevin, whom I'd pushed, still hadn't gotten up. I had to bow to the priest alone. Well, it's good I made it in time. If you had seen what's inside, things wouldn't have ended so well. The priest looked at Kevin lying on the ground. Wake that boy up, you two have something you need to do. After shaking his shoulders several times, Kevin opened his eyes. For a while he stared at the priest with unfocused eyes, but then snapped back to reality and prostrated himself on the ground. I'm so sorry. Enough, enough. So which of you pulled out the needles? That was me. Kevin slowly raised his hand. I see, then you need to put the needles back with your own hands. This bag purifies impurities each time a needle is stuck into it. Sins, mistakes, do it carefully one by one while thinking I'm sorry. Can you see something? Kevin asked fearfully. If I said I could see, you'd be more frightened, but unfortunately I can't. However, this bag has always been that kind of thing. Besides, the young people who came before, after they saw what was inside, they never came back. A chill ran through me. Kevin said nothing more and silently began sticking the needles back in place. Well, even after all this, if you don't know the truth, you might come back again. While Kevin worked methodically on the needles, the priest muttered quietly. Listen while you work. This bag isn't really called Bag-san. It has another name. Its real name is Inugaeshi. Kevin and I looked at the priest in surprise. He smiled gently and said, if curiosity killed the cat, I thought I'd kill that curiosity while I still can, but only if you promise never to tell anyone. We nodded. And so the priest told us about this bag, Inugaeshi, written with the characters for dog return. Inside was an animal carcass, specifically, one that had been drained of blood and organs and mummified. We hollow them out completely, make them into containers rather than living things. Then, through the needles, we transfer people's impurities into that container. The purpose of Inugaeshi is to purify those impurities. Please don't misunderstand, these animals all died natural deaths. Currently, the priest said, the bag contained a cat mummy. My father often used mice too, though you can't stick as many needles in them, so he said they weren't very effective. We've had wild boars, snakes, dogs. Any animal will do, the priest said. When the mummy becomes full of impurities through the needles, it's enshrined in the main hall. It becomes a god, having borne so much human resentment and suffering for so long. Something that takes on people's impurities for them. Now we enshrine agricultural deities. But long ago, This shrine enshrined all these mummies collectively as the main god. We called it Great Dog Sama. Wasn't that essentially a massive accumulation of impurity, of resentment and suffering? Yet this shrine worshipped it as a god. In Shinto, it's not great beings that become gods, but powerful beings. As if reading my doubt, the priest said this: even if it was resentment and suffering, if it had power, it could become a god. Oh, finished? While we'd been talking, Kevin had apparently finished replacing all the needles he'd removed. Confirming this, the priest took something from his pocket and handed it to Kevin and me. They were needles. These are for the mistakes you committed today. Stick these in while properly saying sorry too. I'm sorry for causing trouble, but we didn't mean any harm. Really. Sorry. Thinking these thoughts, I stuck my needle into the bag. Good. Now you two are safe. After that, Kevin and I returned the bag to its original position and fixed the door we'd removed. Then both apologized to the priest once more. It's fine, it's fine. Let this be a lesson to you. Don't do dangerous things anymore. With those words, the priest gave each of us a painful knock on the head, then smiled and said, "Come visit again if you have the chance." When we returned to the car, Sam, who had woken from his nap, saw our expressions and chuckled softly. I don't know what kind of expressions we were wearing, but I think we learned a lot from this occult tour. On the way home, gazing at the night mountains flowing past the window, I was thinking about such things. Glancing at Kevin in the back seat, even he seemed to be reflecting. He was staring at his feet with a thoughtful expression, but eventually he looked up and muttered to me, "Listening to that old man's story, don't you think there might be human mummies in the main hall too? What do you think? If there were, what would you do?" I'd ask that old man to show them to us. And if he said no, then we'd have tried our best. So, no, that's bad. Well, what should I do, Sam? What should I do? Shut up for now. Correction. The idea that we learned a lot from this occult tour was wrong. Curiosity killed the cat. That was probably the only lesson we truly learned. Well, even that alone was significant progress.